what was your experience coming out to your friends and family? And do you have any advice for individuals that are hesitant or scared to come out?
So I had a pretty non-traumatic coming out, I think, in the sense that it was more traumatic for me to come to terms with it within myself, and I feel like I'm still coming to terms with it in some ways. Whereas, like, the only person I really had to tell was my mom, because my dad had passed away already. But I, like, had already started dating my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and I just, like, told my mom, I was like, because I had only dated men before, and I was like, hey, Mom, I just want to let you know, like, I'm dating a girl now. And she was like, yeah, I, like, kind of figured. I was, like, waiting for this to happen. She was like, I don't know, you just kept, like, bringing boys home. And I was like, okay. Like, I didn't, like, so, like, and I think some people have similar stories where, like, moms know. Dads don't know, but, like, moms know deep down. Something we give off that mothers have good gaydar. I don't know. But but my mom knew, and, like, I think telling my grandma, my one grandma, she was like, oh, that's fine, and she's very, like, meek, and so that wasn't a big deal. And then I told my other grandma, who I call her Bestemor, which is grandmother in Norwegian. She's from my Norwegian side, and she's very straight. She's been married 3 times, and so I told her, and she basically said, oh, that's wonderful, but how do you, she was very confused about how you can have a relationship without a man, because this woman's been married 3 times, and she was like, I just want you to have a good life where, I was married 3 times and you should be so lucky. And I was like, I'm good, thank you. So there are more funny stories I have, thankfully, where I'm very lucky. I know a lot of people don't have stories like that. But I think also my journey has been from, I thought I was bisexual, I thought I was queer, and I'm coming to terms with the fact that I know I'm a lesbian, I identify as a lesbian, but, like, it was such a journey to get there because heteronormativity is so ingrained in us, and that even if you do feel attractive to men, or if you think but, like, I did date men for a long time, like, no, like, if dating a man or men in your past does not define anything, like, also the attraction you feel towards a certain sex doesn't always mean that you're, like, actually attracted to them in the sense that you want to pursue a relationship. And I think I recommend anybody who feels similar to look up the master doc of Am I a Lesbian? Because it was actually a really good checklist that made me feel like, oh, I feel a lot like, yes, I'm a lesbian. This helped me, like, validate it, that, like, just because I dated men in the past or whatever, it doesn't mean that, it's not, doesn't have to be part of my story.
Right. And I feel like, it's hard to identify yourself in any sort of way because there is such a sliding scale of every, like me, I'm bisexual, but it's like the scale to which, like you said, like that you actually pursue people romantically or not, or or sexually or not, or so there's always, like, a little bit, I think, a difficulty of getting there. But I think it's cool that you've come to this place where you're, like, accepting that and knowing that about yourself and valuing it. I think that at the end of the day, it just matters, like, how you feel and how you choose to express yourself based on that. So
totally. And, like, sexuality is fluid, and, like, there's no reason to get mad at someone because they're like, oh, I think I'm gay, and then if they say 2 years later, no, actually I do think I'm bisexual, like, because everybody's figuring out all the time. And if someone does change, or someone says, oh yeah, I thought I was straight, and then they're 45 and they're like, no, actually I am gay, like, because it's really fucking hard. You don't know what that person's going through. You don't know what, like, weird society ideas they've had put in their heads about themselves, because that's what I feel like I'm unwrapping a lot of, like, now, and I'm, like, late 20s. I feel like I'm late to the party compared to a lot of people, but, like, everybody, if they change their identification or whatever, like, just be happy that they're able to go on that journey, because a lot of people in the world can't.
Yeah. And actually, like, again, being late to the party, it's like, I don't know, it's all based on, like, your feelings and that connection with that person too. And, like, I don't know. Noelle's been, like, one of my good friends for a long time. And when we met, she was very open about herself, which made me then feel, like, open to, like, come out, like, as bisexual. And it's not something that I've, like, blasted across the internet or, in my life. But it's just something that, like, when you have that community that you feel supported in, that you're like, okay, like, I can say this and I won't be judged, or I won't be, like, I can just be me, and who cares about, like, if I like boys or girls or whoever.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And like,
or if it fits into society's boxes. Yeah.
Yeah.
and I think, like, seeing other people like live their life on social media, like happy and out, like, is one of the best things for modern gay people. I think I'm not a weirdo. I'm not a freak. Like, there's a bunch of people living their lives happy, and I think the more we normalize it, the more it's easy for future generations to like accept it faster and like become who they are even faster than like our generation.
Totally. What does being an ally mean to you, and what would you like to see from allies beyond social media?
I think being an ally means you're a listener. I think it's really important for allies just to listen to the communities they're trying to support. You don't want to just declare yourself an ally and then be like, that's it, I'm doing a good job because I accept you being here in the room with me. Because I feel like I've had that happen before, where it's like, no, actually you said this homophobic thing or something that made me feel uncomfortable. And it's like, but I'm an ally. It's like, no, I get to say if you're an ally, you don't get to say it. And I feel like I've heard other people say that too. It's like, yeah, it's the people in the community who get to call you an ally. It's not something you get to call yourself. So like, make sure you're listening to those people and actually giving help in the way that they think is helpful, as opposed to like if you're the ally, don't give help just to make yourself feel better, because that's not actually helpful. If you're helping but no one actually needs it, then like, that's not helping. So make sure that you're helping in ways that people actually say that's what you need to show up for.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with the world about your story or your experience? I'm
a type 1 diabetic, and it's something that is new to me. I was diagnosed like 3 years ago. So it's relatively new. It's changed a lot of how I think of my body, because now I'm technically disabled and I'm still coming to terms with that. I can't do a lot of things that other people can. Like, I've been hiking multiple times. I'm not a big hiker, but I went to like Iceland once 2 years ago, and I had just been diagnosed, and I went hiking, and I was like, my sugar was really high. So thankfully when I dropped 100 points, I was like normal and in range. And I was like, whew, that could have been bad, but like, woo, look at me, I'm fine. And then I went to Norway and I did a hike, and I had like a near-death experience where my blood sugar got so low at the top of the mountain that someone had to walk back down and come back up with an ATV to take me down. And like, that was the real first time that I'm like, oh, it's not just a fun numbers game I'm playing. It like actually affects me. Because I have the Dexcom reader on my phone, so it gives me a live update of my blood sugar. So half the time it feels like a phone game, because I'm just like, keep it in range. And then when I feel the physical actual sensations of like being low or being too high, it's like, it brings me back into, oh, this is a real thing that's affecting my body. And I recently watched The Babysitter's Club on Netflix. And it's a very wholesome, cute show. It's very good if you're like, I'm depressed in quarantine and you like need to pick me up. But there's a girl who's a type 1 diabetic in that show, and that's like part of her storyline. And she had like just been recently diagnosed and was like talking about like bringing up her blood sugar when she was low. And like the whole part of the storyline was that they thought she might not be responsible enough to take care of the children. And some of the parents like found out. And then there was this one mom who was like, no, I'm an endocrinologist, and I saw her treat her symptoms, and she's actually very responsible, and I think she's more on top of it. It was like very heartwarming, like, and then they all had confidence in her. And like, it didn't hit me when I first watched it, but I keep thinking about it now weeks and weeks after watching it. And I was like, this is what people mean when they say like representation matters. Like, it felt like that was the first time I ever encountered that disability on like a mainstream media thing, besides on an episode of Hannibal when some guy made like a mushroom garden out of the comatose diabetic people. I don't know if anybody watches Hannibal, but he like induced high blood sugar and then like made them a mushroom garden. It was so weird. But besides that, that was like really the only time I had seen someone with diabetes like displayed on a mainstream TV show, and I keep coming back to it. And so I think that's also what's becoming chronically ill or disabled is really opening my eyes to, because, you know, we have a lot of like gay people starting to be more in mainstream. We have them in TV shows, and it's like, yeah, like every community, every person deserves to be highlighted somewhere in mainstream culture. And like, we just have to keep working to, it's not super hard to include these people. Like, just, we have to get better writers for stories and things like TV shows. And like, you know, you just have to open the door and the people will come. And I think it's really important to show that.